I'm just heading out the door on our way to Dunedin to watch the Blue Jays later this afternoon. My favorite baseball team is about 2.5 hours from where we are here in Southwest Florida. So looking forward to spending the weekend watching some baseball, some spring training baseball, which I love. And then we're going to head to the Tampa Bay Lightning Toronto Maple Leaf game on Monday night on the way home. So guys, sports bender weekend, and really looking forward to attending some baseball later today and tomorrow. Just thinking about spring training, what I love about spring training, and we've gone to Dunedin. I've taken my dad to Dunedin a couple times, and we've been there 4 or 5 times over the last decade for spring training. And the thing that I absolutely love about spring training, especially in baseball, is the focus on fundamentals. It's literally the only time in the year in baseball where they break it down and you work on fundamentals, even for a couple of weeks before the spring training exhibition games. Guys are working on fielding, the little details, small ball, bunting, moving runners over, all these kind of things that you don't necessarily get a lot of time to practice when the relentless season begins in ball. And it reminds me of how important spring training, or if you want to call it training camp, is from the sport I come from, training camp in hockey, is that business is even tougher than sport for one reason, and one reason only, and that is, in business there's no off season. And a lot of people, they talk about how tough it is to coach pro hockey, how tough it is to coach pro football, the hours that these guys put in, Division I college coaches sleeping on their couch, putting in 18-hour days and all this stuff. But as a former professional coach who put in those hours, I remember working 14, 16, 18-hour days. But here's the thing about being a professional coach or a high-level amateur coach, is you have an off season. Maybe it's only a month, maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's more. But all the NHL coaches that I know, they have a nice 2 to 3, sometimes a 4-month break where they can return to their summer residence, where they get to reconnect with their families, their wives, their children. They take a mental break from the game. Same with even NFL coaches. I mean, they still work extremely hard in the off season, and there's the draft and the mini camps and all this other stuff, but it's not relentless. It's not the relentless grind of entrepreneurship. And this is why business people, businessmen, entrepreneurs, builders are my favorite people on earth. And they're my favorite people on earth because they literally sign up. They literally sign up by choice for this incredible grind. I was talking to a high-level restaurant owner today, and they're selling their beautiful home here in Naples. And I asked them, I was looking through the home today with my wife, Krista, and I said, why they have a young family, 3 children. They have this gorgeous home in Naples in a gated community with a big pool, the whole thing. And his wife was there. She walked in after the realtor and showed us the home. And I was asking her, and she candidly answered. She said, Michael, we're actually moving so that we can move 10 minutes closer to our restaurant. And because of my background, 31 years in business, I was the only one there that understood that 10 minutes probably made a hell of a difference in their day, especially when they're working 14, 16, up to 18-hour days. She mentioned that her husband, during the peak time, which is now in this area, he's easily putting in 14 to 16-hour days at their restaurant. So here they have this big, gorgeous home and a beautiful pool and 3 really nice kids. But at the end of the day, they're selling it all to move into a home that is 10 minutes closer each way. That'll save them 20 minutes, probably 30 minutes a day, because their day is already long enough. And I can totally understand that. My grandfather always said when we were kids and we didn't understand it, He said, live where you work. He goes, live where you work. And he was a guy working a general store who would put in, the 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. So the 14-hour day, 7 days a week, every day but Christmas, just like my dad did, but had a 5-minute commute. In other words, he walked up to his home, which was next door to the store. When my dad started in business, in the general store business, we lived in the back of the store. And when my dad was doing these 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. 14-hour days, again, every day but Christmas, at least his commute for lunch and for dinner, and when the day was over, was a 2-minute commute into the back of the store where we had our home, and my mom looked after myself and my sister at the time. So it's interesting, the grind that entrepreneurs go through, how critical it is, and how there absolutely is no off season. And vacations, people say, well, you can take a vacation and this and that, and I'm like, you know what, I know a lot of business owners, I know a lot of businessmen, I know a lot of entrepreneurs who don't get to take very many vacations. And even when they do take a vacation, it's not like, they're completely separated. It's not like they're completely disconnected or anything like that. They're still connected through their email and through their what they have to do on those days. So, and I know a lot of business owners that unfortunately haven't had a vacation in 10 years because they're running their businesses. Not only can they not afford it, but they also can't afford the time away from the business. So the grind is unbelievable. And this is where I was thinking about spring training today, how as busy businessmen, it's critical that we find ways to have at least tiny sessions of spring training. Tiny training camps for our minds and for our bodies. And when I was going as hard as I could 15 years ago in the insurance business, my little training camps, because I'm going 12 months a year, my little training camps were a short period of time in the summer, July, when school was out and we were at the lake and things slowed down just a little bit. I used to take a week where I would literally, work part-time, if at all, and I would sit down and I would recharge on the end of the dock, and I would sit there and I would read, I would write in my personal journal, I would set some new goals for the coming 6 months, and basically I would shut it off for 4, 5, 6, 7 days if I was lucky. And that was my training camp, reading these books over and over again that I had, I had it down to like 4 or 5 books that I read every year. Out of all the thousands of books that I've read, these 5 are the ones that I read every single year. So I would sit on the end of the dock and I would, over 6 or 7 days, I would read these 5 books, relearn, refocus, and recharge. And then the other time that I found was between Christmas and New Year's. For whatever reason, that's when a lot of my clients, contractors, and business people slowed down a tiny bit between Christmas and New Year's. And I used to be able to run a little personal mini camp, training camp during that week where I could get away from the office, I could do some extra reading, and I would take those another 3 or 4 books and I would read them. And it's just amazing, by just taking that little 3 or 4 days, 5 days, whatever it was the same effect as a pro athlete or an amateur athlete having a spring training or training camp. If I focused back on the fundamentals, it gave me a chance to think about my business, where I was going in the next 6 months to a year, what we could do better. And this book reading, of course, is always inspirational, motivational. And I remember, out of all the thousands of books that I could have pulled off my bookshelf out of my library every year, and to this time, I have the same five books that I just continually reread. And a longtime mentor of mine told me years ago, because he knew that I was a voracious reader, I was a guy who was reading a book per week, at least 50 books a year. And he said, Michael, let me give you a tip, a next level tip. He said, it's great that you read all these books. That's fantastic. Keep doing that. He says, if you're ever in a time crunch, he said, let me give you a secret to ultimate success. He said, it's better for you to read the top 10 books, the best books for your life and business, whatever those are, you're choosing them. He says it's better for you to read those 10 books 10 times, he said, than read 100 different books one time. And wow, that took a while for it to think, for me to really think about that. And he was absolutely right. And I am always reading new books. I'm reading new autobiographies, biographies, newsletters, you name it. I'm reading all the time, probably 3 to 5 hours per day. Buffett does 5 to 6 hours of physical reading per day. But I mean, when I take these mini training camps and these mini like spring training to refocus and to work on the important and to take a break mentally and physically, what the books that I read, the two that I've been reading over the last few years when I was still coaching hockey and running my different companies, is number one, I read Tim Grover's Relentless every single year, at least once a year. I try to read Relentless at least every year to once every 6 months. I used to read Relentless during the playoffs. I read the book Relentless during our 2019 Barclay Cup Championship run, and it was invaluable. It's the ultimate book on mental toughness. So I read that during our playoff grind. Another book that I've started reading every single year, sometimes twice a year, is Tim's new book, Winning. And even though that's a pretty new book, I'm on my 5th reading of it. And it's the type of book, again, on mental toughness that is going to serve me well, but only if I continue to read it year after year. So that's what I intend to do. So that's one of my 5. The other 3 books, and actually there's maybe even 4, are anything Dan Kennedy. And whenever I had a chance or an opportunity between Christmas and New Year's to settle down and just recharge for a few days, or in the summer on the boat or on the end of the dock, when I had a little bit of time to myself, I read anything Dan Kennedy. But his books, the ones that I continue to read 20 years later, on any, I read them a couple times a year. I usually read them when I'm recharging or on a vacation. But I purposely read Dan's, of course, his fundamental book, No BS Business Success. That's my favorite book, his Business Success. And then the second book that I read every year for training camp is his No BS Time Management. So I read business, read time management. And the third book I read is his No BS Sales. No BS Sales. So business, sales, and time management are 3 books. You can read those little books in 2 to 3 hours easily, highlighting, taking notes. Very inspirational, get you back thinking the right way. It's like a brain cleanse and a brain dump at the same time. And then the one that I'll throw in as an extra that I read every year as a person who employs staff is Dan Kennedy's Ruthless Management of People and Profits. If you run a team, if you run a staff, if you run a company, or you run 3 different businesses like I do, then reading Dan's Ruthless Management of People and Profits is something that has to happen every damn December. That's my reading between Christmas and New Year's. It's my wake-up call for the coming year. I'm not sitting there setting fantasy goals for the new year or my wish list. I'm reading Ruthless Management of People and Profits and looking into our systems and making sure that everything is tight and tightening the screws on my business and evaluating my employees. Are they profitable? And evaluating my own personal performance. And nothing does that better than Dan's Ruthless Management of People and Profits. So that's it. There's no break for the small business owner. There's no off season for the entrepreneur. There's no off season for the businessman, but we have to proactively pick our spots to work on the fundamentals, to, sharpen the saw, to sharpen the axe. And I call these little times that we get mini training camps or mini spring trainings where we can, reconnect with the fundamentals of business, read a book on sales, read a book on service, read a book on goal setting, and really dial it back and get back to fundamentals, because fundamentals are the difference between winning and losing in sport and in business. So there's no off season, but we do have to pick our spots to make sure we recharge, reconnect, refocus, and reading these 3, 4, 5, 6 books, whatever they are, and rereading them and rereading them and rereading them. There's that great famous quote that I never forgot after my mentor told me about reading books 10 times. There was this great quote, and I forget who said it, but what's important is he said, and the quote said, the problem with new good books is they keep us from rereading great old books. They keep us from rereading great old books. A lot of wisdom in that quote, and a lot of wisdom in what one of my early mentors told me about it. Better to reread incredible books, 5 or 10 books 10 times, than it is to always be reading the new book all the time, looking and chasing the new something. That's it for today. Michael McLean, 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that can change your life. When I talk about changing your life, check out the PS below in this email. I am making my $155 million marketing swipe file available for you. I haven't done this in a few years. I found them in the garage. I've completely updated them right up to 2022. All of my physical marketing that I have used in multiple industries, in multiple economies, 31 years in business, 22 years as a pro coach and team owner, barber shops, insurance agencies, window washing company, my marketing with the Rotary Club, with the food bank, with the animal shelter, all of it put into an ugly red shiny envelope for you. I've got them here. I want to get them out of my garage in Canada. They're driving my wife crazy. If you're interested, reply to this email, subject line swipe file. Subject line swipe file. I'll put you on a waiting list to purchase one of them. They're $1,001, 1001. I just picked that number up. I used to sell them for $5,000. So I just decided 1,001, that's what it's going to cost you. I'll FedEx the ugliest product you've ever seen in your life. I'll FedEx it to you anywhere in the world on my dime. You just paid the $1,001. But in the meantime, reply to this email with swipe file, and I'll put you on a waiting list, because I have to ship them. I'm getting them shipped from Canada up here to Florida, down here to Florida, down here to Florida. And when I get them here, I'll contact you again to make sure you still want to buy it. If you do, I'll FedEx it to you. So you can reply to this email to be put on a waiting list. I don't care whether you buy the swipe files or not. I've got about 3 boxes left, and it's everything I've used. It's everything I've used to sell over $155 million in products and services. And everything from my postcards, my flyers, the phone scripts are worth millions, my TV ads, my social media posts, my emails, my videos, you name it. It's all in this one big package. How I motivated staff, our commission structure, all this, our phone scripts, our reception scripts, our sales scripts are just endless and endless. So if that's not your cup of whiskey, I get it. I don't care. I'm going to go watch some spring training ball. But if you are interested, reply to this email with swipe file, and I'll put you on my list. 2 words that changed my life. 2 words that will damn well change yours. Be relentless.